Today I'm joined by Krishnanand. Krishnanand's journey into spirituality and personal growth began in his youth, long before his profound NDE, and he is recognized as a true polymath with expertise across a range of fields. His career as an author includes 5 acclaimed books published prior to his memoir documenting his NDE. Krishnanand brings decades of experience not only in writing but in workshopping and teaching practical and spiritual methods. Known for his authenticity, Krishnanand's voice as an author and counselor is both innovative and life-changing. He joins us today to share his story and the insights gained from a life that continues to challenge convention and expound the boundaries of personal resilience. Welcome to the show, Krishnanand.
Thank you for inviting me, and what a tremendous introduction. I hope I can live up to that. I am all those things, but even when I hear it, I'm kind of like, oh my God, that's me. I can't live up to that. I can't be that guy, but thank you.
You will, I'm sure of that. So let's start by, I would like to understand more about your background. Before understanding your NDE, can you tell me a bit about who you were and what I need to know about you before that moment in time?
Sure, I think that's very relevant, and you already said a lot of that even in the introduction. I began reading when I was 4, and I've been reading nonstop, and I was instantly attracted to supernatural, the esoteric, and occult things, and spiritual things. Even by the time I'm 5, 6, 7 years old, it began with paranormal and ghost stories as a child, and then it quickly evolved into becoming a theologue and a master of religions and spiritual philosophies because I was fascinated by them. So, as you mentioned, I'm a polymath. I mean, it's not all it sounds like it's cracked up to be. It's really tough to kind of be a big-headed know-it-all in a lot of areas. It's a bit overwhelming at times, but I'm also grateful for it. So, indeed, long prior to this near-death experience, I was already living a very spiritual life. I was dedicated and having some of the most extraordinary experiences spiritually and mystically that anybody could even document. And so on the practical side, by 17, I was on my own, kind of left home, was living kind of on the streets and kind of couch flopping where I could. And so I got involved with some very dark people and some very sinister and very intense drugs and some very extraordinary experiences. And this went on for several years. And eventually at 27, 28 years, first of all, at 25, I had a powerful, intense Kundalini event. I was involved with a tantric priestess. I did not know that when I met her. The way we met was very surreal and really cool. And I became involved with her, and she had these tantric techniques. And she activated a Kundalini event, which made the top chakra of my head completely blow open. And so I was, for several weeks, having a very intense, profound Kundalini event. That actually went on for years and continues to this day, but it was particularly intense for the first several months. So this is 25. At 27, I find out that an ex of mine is pregnant and I'm going to be a father. And I decided to turn my life over. I had visions, and the visions it was like angelic beings came and visited me and said, he's coming. And I was like, who's coming? You're a teacher. I sensed right away that from a past life, my son was my teacher. And so I had the opportunity to return the favor and be his guide and teacher in this lifetime. And so I gravitated to the role. I became a single solo father. And that young man is a 31-year-old firefighter in San Diego now, and he's killing it, and he's an amazing guy. Like, he's all virtuous and good, and yet he's still kind of like on the bus and kind of like cool too, you know? Very rare combination. So I got off of dope, and it was Herculean. I mean, it was a massive endeavor to get off of dope and walk away from everything that I knew. I didn't know anybody who wasn't a criminal on drugs. I didn't know anybody, not one person. So I was completely alone. Like, I didn't have anyone in my life because I didn't know I could not associate with drug addicts and criminals anymore because I knew that I would to be my downfall. And so the only way that I had a chance of staying clean and sober and being a father was to not relate and associate with anybody that I knew. I couldn't think of one person. So I went through this on my own. I couldn't afford recovery and knew it was all bullshit anyway. The recovery empire is just a big money-making fearmonger, and it's ineffective. And so I did it on my own. I got clean off of dope, and I made it. And I became a contractor. I was in construction since I was a kid, when I was virtually homeless at 17. And I knew what else to do. I'm like, I'm a father now. I got to be like a grown man. I got to be like a grown up. I got to take care of a little family now. And so I got my license to be a tenant improvement commercial contractor. And pretty much within a few years, I went from just getting by, and just scraping by, to within a few years, I had anywhere from 6 to 35 guys working for me at any given time. And I was very successful on doing big projects all over Los Angeles. And I loved it. And then about 9 years of that, I bought a house. I'm coaching Little League. I'm a single parent. I'm living the kind of like all-American kind of dream kind of thing, right? And yet I'm still very mystical and spiritual and involved with all these kind of things and questioning for more. So there's like a dual existence going on. And I started to wake up feeling very restless and unhappy. And I didn't know why. And it had this nagging sense that I wasn't doing anything meaningful with my life. I was successful and doing great, providing, and everything was perfect in many ways, but I didn't feel like I was doing anything meaningful, and it was really tearing me apart. I just felt dark all the time, and I had to just make it stop. So I basically, over a little bit gradually, but I walked away from my successful construction company, became a hypnotherapist. I wanted to do something that I wanted to do. So like, even if I have to do this part-time for free, but I get and do my construction, I'm okay because I'll be doing something that I like. And I was fascinated by it. Hypnotherapy, I was really good at it. I was changing people's lives, and it was really cool. So I liked it. Within a couple of years, this shifted from hypnotherapy, teaching people to lose weight and quit smoking, to becoming a full-time counselor. People sought me out. I had a reputation. I found out later that people in the community in Los Angeles, which is a big place, there's 150,000 people in my community, were referring to me as the cavalry counselor, the guy to go to when nothing else will work. And I did not know this was behind my back. And it was because, Sabrina, I saw people getting screwed over by doctors and recovery places, just getting nowhere, losing all their money, losing all their hope, and not getting any help but being told to take medications and shit. And it angered me, and it made me very passionate to help these people that came to me for help. So I wanted to save them. So I put everything I had into it. And again, within a few years, I went from being a part-time hypnotherapist in a sublet office to a full-time, 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, passionately saving people's lives, speaking in public to the community, being a keynote speaker at conventions, and really kind of loving all this kind of work that I was doing. So that's kind of where I was at.
Wow. There's so many twists and turns in your story, and we're not even close to being done. So tell me.
If I may, I'll tell you that her whole first account, again, my first book was a memoir called A Stone's Throw, Memoir of a Dope Fiend. And so my first book was a memoir also because of that. And that won 5 awards.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a pretty tricky story, pretty unusual.
Absolutely. So tell me how your near-death experience happened.
So again, I had started this private practice, and I went from a sublet office within it took about 3 years, and pretty soon, in those 3 years, I'm in a corner office overlooking a park in the suburbs of Los Angeles. I'm very successful at it, and I'm loving what I do, and I work nonstop because I'm not going to turn anybody away. Now let's go back for a moment, because in 2004, I met my soulmate. She and I met in a car accident, a little fender bender, and quickly bonded. We became absolute lovers, and we were together. So, fast forward again to this 2013, in my private practice. I went to bed that night having just gone for our 10-year anniversary to Nepal and India, traveling spiritual tirths, sacred sites. That's what we did for our 10-year anniversary. So again, yes, as you mentioned, I'm already very spiritually involved. And that morning, I decided to ride my motorbike to work, which is unusual, but occasionally. And I put on this shirt, the Museum of Death. I have a collection of t-shirts, Stonehenge, Halloween haunts, places from all over the country and all over the world. I have a collection of t-shirts that I kind of like. This is the one I happened to grab that day, Museum of Death. Went to my office, had a back-to-back clients all day, and then suddenly I had 3 texts in a row of clients postponing their appointment. They said they couldn't make it. That happens occasionally, but never 3 in a row. Suddenly I had 4.5 hours to kill, right? And I was like, what am I going to do? So I decided to go up the street to get a physical. My next book, Project Addiction, was coming out. And my publisher and publicist said, you need to get a physical because we need to insure this because some of the things you're doing are kind of dangerous. It's a whole other story with the book. And, excuse me, I keep kicking my table, so it's jiggling. And so I called my girlfriend and said, you want to come take a walk with me? I've got like 5 hours. She goes, I can't, I got to work. I'm like, okay. She goes, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to go up the street and take a physical, get the physical out of the way. I kind of need it, I'm overdue for it. I'm perfectly healthy. And so if one client had rescheduled, would have stayed in the office, stayed busy. If 2 had called and rescheduled, I would have stayed busy. 3 in a row had never happened before. 7 years in this office. I go down to the parking garage, get on my motorbike, which is a very unusual motorbike, very unusual. It's from Italy. It's 2 wheels in the front, 1 in the back. It's very strange. They're very huge and all over the place in Europe. You've probably seen them. What country are you in?
Netherlands.
Okay, MP3 500s, the Piaggio MP3s. In Europe, they're everywhere. Here, they're not. So as I exit my parking garage, for the first time in 7 years, I turned right instead of left. And to this day, I don't know why. I always turned left because the left way into town was side streets, quiet and calm. The right side was a boulevard. I have no idea why I turned right. I never did before. I never did since. And that day I did, and I don't know why. As I pulled up to a intersection stoplight, about not even a quarter mile from my office, I stopped at a red light, and I was the only one in the left turn lane. It was kind of a quiet day out. The light went green, just a green arrow, just for me. And as I eased out to make my turn, a guy in a full-size SUV went through the light, hit me in the face, killing me instantly. Dead on the street, mangled, bloody, and dead. On the corner is a tire store. In front of the tire store was a guy on his cell phone. He's a pastor of all the people. And he thought, God put me here for a reason. And he ran over the scene to pull my body from underneath the carriage of this vehicle. And people were yelling at him, leave him alone, help is on the way. And he's like, fuck it, God put me here for a reason. And he pulled me out. I did not know this until about 3 years ago. And I met the guy. Me and I talked because somebody told me about it. Until that, I didn't know. On the other corner is a Jack in the Box restaurant, a fast food joint. And 2 paramedics were in the front of the line getting lunch. Had they been in the back of the line, I would not be here. Had they wanted tacos instead of burgers that day, I wouldn't be here. Because they were in the front of the line, they were on the scene in seconds. He pulled me out and they were there. Please understand that the emotions that you see in me are not my own trauma and fear or tragedy. It's because when I think of these events and how it affected my family, I can't be a source of pain. And it's very painful to relive. I don't care about me. I just don't want to be a source of pain. Paramedics saw that I was in a stage 3 Glasgow coma. It is synonymous with death. Literally, EMTs shrug their shoulders and say, it's up to God now. When you're in stage 3, there's nothing they can do. They started my heart. They brought my body back to life. And again, the emotions are because my son was at his In-N-Out burger job. He was 17 at the time. And he gets a call. The other guy, there's another guy on the corner. My son's best friend, Sam. Sam doesn't live anywhere near that part of town. He has no business being there. That day, he had an errand to run at the DMV behind the Jack in the Box. And he had me on the corner. Very unusual. Calls my son. Said, Brandon, your dad's been in an accident. I said, how do you know it's my dad? He says, it's a bike, man. Nobody has a bike like that. When they came to the hospital, my 10-year partner and my son, they were told, if he ever wakes up, which he won't, no one ever has, 98% of people in stage 3 with a DI injury, it doesn't happen. But if he does, he will not remember who, he will not be able to walk, talk. He's going to virtually be a vegetable. So they're trying to ease them into this. I'm in a coma. I wake from my coma 9 days later on my birthday. Now we have a collection of events, as I said, a collection of miracles. Right instead of left turn, paramedic on the corner, pastor on the corner, my son's best friend on the corner, waking up on my birthday. How bizarre is this? It seems now, which at the time I had no idea. Now I can see that there was a collection of arrangements made to make this extraordinary, not for me, but so that other people, I don't think even an atheist could hear this and be like, oh, there's no God. I mean, somebody's got to look at this and say, come on. If you're not making this up, this is extraordinary. Now, when I woke from my coma, I didn't know who I was, did not know how to speak, did not know how to walk. And I'm not saying that I couldn't. I'm saying I did not know how. I did not know who I was. My memory was deleted. When my partner came into my room and a nurse was there and she said, do you know who this is? And they're very condescending, like took me like a child. And I was bothered by that. And I didn't know who she was. No idea. Didn't know who my son was. Didn't know who I was. My memory and my identity had been deleted. I didn't know, I wasn't amnesia. Not the same thing. It's like I never knew. My first words when I could start to speak a little bit to my partner was, what are you doing in London? This is because I knew I was in London. Obviously I'm not. I'm in a suburb of Los Angeles. But during my death event, the moment of impact, the moment that truck hit me in the face, my spirit catapulted. I did not have the out of body, hover around, look at the accident scene. I was like, fuck this, I'm out of here. And I catapulted to the other side, to a dimension that I refer to as the portal. An in-between state, between life and death. And I was in direct contact with what I refer to as Akashic agents. Call them angels, call them what you will. A spiritual intelligence. And I was completely peaceful and fine. Didn't know what was going on earth and didn't care. Had an idea of it and was like, don't want to be there. So I instantly went to the other side. I did not hover around, instantly catapult to the other side. I'm like, I'd rather be here. This is much better. I don't even know anything about that. So when I wake up from my coma, I'm still mentally, consciously, partially there. Only part of my consciousness within my body, a very small part. I'm completely aware of the other side, what I call the portal space. The worldly space is a very strange place for me. It doesn't make any sense. And so the reason I said, what are you doing in London? How'd you get to London so fast? I was confused because while I was on the other side, I had not just a life review, which is common for near-death experiencers. I had a multiple life review. I was displayed like a cinema, dozens and dozens of lifetimes, uploaded into my mind, and witnessed them. And one of my last lifetimes, I was in London, and I was with the girl that I was with. We had known each other several lifetimes, and my son too. So I was convinced that that's where I was. I wasn't like kind of suspecting, like I know where I'm at right now. Like that's where I was. I was in London. I said, how'd you guys get to London so fast? This went on for a long time. My current identity, let me rephrase that. Nurses, hospital staff, my girlfriend, my son, anyone that I talked to. I was very confused. I was like, why do you say your name is Jeanette and Brandon? Why do you go with these identities? That's not who you are. Because I know them from all these other identities. And what I saw for everybody was not just who they were at the moment, but a collection of identities they've had for many past lives. I was seeing their spirit, their soul, not them as people. And I had to learn to keep that very quiet because I would look insane. And I didn't know what insane was. I didn't know anything. So it was hard to adjust. As I'm trying to adjust to this present moment identity and world where my mind is completely aware of the other side. I'm seeing things in a big picture view. When I went home after 28 days in the hospital, which is another very significant thing for a numerologist, I'm proficient in numerology, have been for many years. I didn't know who I was. And my son sits next to me on the couch and says, "How's it feel to be home, Dad?" And I said, "I know that's my fish tank. I know that's my TV. This is my sofa, but none of it feels familiar. So I know this academically in some way, but none of it feels familiar." So the difference was my memory is that nothing felt familiar. My son was like brand new to me every day. He took me into the garage, started showing me things, opening up boxes. I was showing me pictures of us scuba diving in different places around the world, traveling to Europe with my girlfriend, and being in the paper as a counselor and as a keynote speaker and an innovator in behavioral health. And I was not famous, but I was pretty well known and apparently pretty accomplished. And I was like, I can't be this guy. I'm jelly. This is me? That's me in these photos. And I was overwhelmed. And I felt damned because there were some big shoes to fill and I couldn't even walk. I learned how to walk and talk from scratch like an infant does. My son became my physical therapist. We couldn't really get to the hospital very easily. Excuse me. So I learned how to walk and talk from scratch. I learned who I was from scratch. I learned who I was by looking at these photos and these things in the garage and other things around my house that my son was showing to me. That's how I learned who I was. The same way you learned about me, by reading about me and things like that. And yet, it's not you. So you look at it and you say, okay, I get to know this guy, but it's remote. That's a different person. That's how it felt to me. The exact same way. Except the guy in these photographs and all these things had my face. Now, I want to remind again that this shirt, I'll go back for a moment to the accident scene because I don't want to forget why I'm wearing this funky shirt on your wonderful podcast, because I would normally dress a little bit more professionally. This is the shirt I put on, and you can see that it's stitched up because the paramedics sheared it off of me. I've got photos of this shirt, again, of all the shirts I wore that day, Museum of Death in Hollywood. They sheared it off of me. My editor for the book, she and I have become the closest of friends. She's so lovely. She asked me to send it to her, and she stitched it up like this and sent it back. So I wear it today as a testament to surviving, persevering. I am still here.
That's such an impressive story, and I cannot even begin to understand how difficult and challenging it is to get to know yourself as we would another person, learn about yourself, and being told about this identity that you probably did not feel very connected to, but people refer to as this is you, next to learning how to be in an able body and learning how to walk, to talk. We don't remember these things because we were very young when we learned this. But when you're an adult and you have to go through that, it's definitely a very painful process. And I want to go back to your time in the portal, as you call it. You've had a life review, but I know that you've also had a life preview, which is quite interesting because I haven't heard that as much. So could you tell me more about what you've experienced, and were there any kind of insights next to everything that was downloaded onto you, but any insights into how you should be living your life and what you should be doing differently?
Yes. While I'm within the portal, I'm in direct communication. There's an ongoing dialogue. Now, time doesn't exist the way it does here. It just is. So it's not that time doesn't exist. It does exist. It's just not in a way that we can kind of relate to it in the way that we understand time here. Slower, fast, or whatever. And so, yes, I was having a kind of a dialogue. And these Akashic agents, as I refer to them, offered me an unusual offer. I had the life preview, life passing before your eyes kind of thing. And I was explained why this event occurs for everybody. And then I was offered an unusual offer. a multiple life preview? And I said, yes, but I only want to see lives that are significant to my soul's journey. Lives where I made progress and did not make progress in my soul's journey of spiritual evolution and growth. Other than that, I don't care. Whether I was famous, notorious, whatever, I only want to see what I did right and what I did wrong so I can become closer to God, to the God power, divine love. It's hard to say I asked, but I guess I was curious as to why I was being offered this. It was inferred to me that the reason was because, again, I'm not trying to bump myself up, but because you already know a lot of these things. So you've already spent your life studying karma, sanskars, past life. You've had past life regressions, multiple of them. And so you're qualified, you could say, to have this kind of extra bonus features to your NDE so that you can learn and grow. So I got to witness, again, like a cinema, many of the most significant events in our history for spiritual paths. When I was involved with, I wasn't the Buddha, involved with and saw the Buddha 2,500 years ago, was there and witnessed some of the passions of the Christ. And so I got to see some of the true events that occurred historically before they were all changed and modified by historians to fit their agendas, their religious agendas. So I get to witness these things. And I saw in many lifetimes what I did right and when I progressed, what I did wrong. And every one of them gave me an opportunity. This is what past life review is about. To give you the opportunity, like Ebenezer Scrooge is showed by the Ghost of Christmas Past. Here's what you did wrong. Here's what you can do better. And here's what's going to happen if you don't. The entire point the Akashic agents arrange these things is because they want you to learn how to go back and live more spiritually. So certainly kind of I was like, okay, so I don't think I can live more spiritually. I already have my entire life committed to living to spiritual realization and enlightenment. That's all I've been pursuing all my life. So I understand why that guy died. He was agnostic. He was atheist, and now he believes, and that's great. And I understand, but most of these people bounce back, go back to work the next day. I'm in a coma, I'm suffering, and I didn't need to find God. I was already living a life towards God. Is it possible that the reason these events occurred again was to establish and document a different perspective on these things, to bring it to a higher octave? I don't know. I'm just a scribe. I'm just telling my story. So what I gained, and I know it's going to sound like hubris, it's not. What I gained and learned from the life preview, multiple life preview, is, again, what I did right, what I did wrong. That I never fully surrendered, and that I was making progress the entire time. So it's not like I went back, entered my body, and began living a spiritual life like most NDErs that suddenly find God. I was already committed to it. It just revealed to me and established for me, you're on the right track. Don't fucking stop. Excuse my language. Don't stop. I didn't learn something new of the lifetime of study and scholarship that I've done and practicing. Again, I wasn't just a scholar in theologue and religion, spiritual paths. I was practicing it intensely. What I learned was that I'm on the right path, I'm doing the right things, to commit to continue doing that. And indeed, if you do, eventually you may just pull off your total ambition of total realization, divine love consciousness. And so what it did was, rather than give me new knowledge, it basically confirmed what I had already been studying and learning in the right ways, and because I already sifted through a lot of stuff that was the false stuff throughout my life, and it deepened it. It made it more passionate. So it wasn't like brand new to me. It just, the feeling of grace, capital G, that's God's power of transmission. The way that when you feel grace, you are not divine, you are human. God is divine, not human. And so therefore, we can't totally know and understand that. Grace is the transmission of divine love given to us. This is the power that God uses to transmit the feeling of divine love within us. It's a gift. And so, again, the benefit, I guess you could say, the shift would be that I was assured, you're on the right path. It was very comforting. Keep it up. Keep doing it. And again, all it did was elevate my passion for it even more. A sweetness was added to it. And again, I saw some of the things I did wrong. Now, I was also given a life preview. What was expected to happen when I returned? While I'm in the Akashic space, I don't want to go back. I see life preview and I'm like, it's going to be hell. I'm going to lose everything. Soulmate love, we are bonded. We have been together for what we have is magical. And it truly is, truly was. My career of helping people, I'm going to lose my mind. How am I going to not go crazy from this tragedy and loss? And I'm not going to know who I am for 4 years. Again, standard operating procedure for near-death experience is it typically can take 7 years to stabilize within your body again. Many NDEers that have intense ones will talk about, it's very well documented, Raymond Moody, etc., that it can take 7 years for your spirit to stabilize within your body again, which is, as you said, the reason you don't remember much of your childhood experiences and become cognizant is because until you're 7, your spirit is not stabilized. Your consciousness is not stabilized within your body yet. You're still kind of in both realms. I had spent my entire life, of course, becoming who I'd been, creating a world and reality of caring for the people that I love, so providing for them and me and giving them a spiritual tone to life. And it was like being reincarnated with nothing. It was like I was reinvented and going back and starting from scratch. So in some ways, when you're reincarnated, that's exactly what you do. You start from scratch. You have your memories latent in your consciousness from your past lives. So you have some experience there that you can reintegrate and revoke. But generally, when you're born into existence, you don't remember who you were. And this is kind of how it was. I was starting over from scratch, and it felt kind of shitty because I was like, as I started to learn, again, I was all these things. I'd become all these things, and I can't remember any of it. This sucks. So, again, this collection of events. Now, keep in mind that medically, I'm a 3-time medical miracle. There's only about 3 people since the 80s that woke up from the stage 3. I also have a DAI, diffuse axonal brain injury, the worst brain trauma known to science. When I went, I was invited to UCLA Medical Center by the chief of neurology. Called me up, and I could barely speak at the time. I was kind of confused all the time. Invited me to see him, and I went to get to talk to him. And he keeps asking me during this little interview, when was your accident? When was your accident? I said, why do you keep asking me that? He goes, because I'm looking at your fMRI here. I don't know how you're sitting up and talking to me. I'm looking at your fMRI. I do not know how you're sitting up. I don't know how this is happening. Can we study you? We need to know what's going on. They put me through several days of studies. And when I called him back sometime later and said, so what'd you find out? Because I'm desperate, man. I mean, I'm really struggling. And he said, we don't know. We honestly don't know how you're doing what you're doing. We're hoping you can tell us. What was I doing? Working my ass off, trying to learn how to walk and talk, doing the work. As people have often said, it's a miracle and it was God's grace, and it is. But I worked my ass off. Let's not forget that I did the work. God helps those who help themselves. So my caveat to that was that, yes, indeed, I did the work and God graced me with results. I didn't sit on my ass and do nothing. I did the work and I suffered to learn how to walk and talk and remember who I was. But God graced me with the results. Many people don't get that. I got results. So becoming a medical miracle 3 times over and being able to have these events in my near-death experience. I don't like near-death. I was dead. I'm near as I deserve. Yeah, it was true. It was a full death experience. And so, again, what I've endured to attain these special features, if I was more worthy, so-called, to have these extra added bonuses to my NDE experience, it was because I put in the time and the work. Again, spiritual since I was 4 or 5 years old. And again, not just studying. I'm a third-degree ceremonial magician when I was involved with esoteric studies, hermetics. I'm a certified master alchemist, trained by Flamel College, and tutored by Dennis Hawk himself, a very famous alchemist throughout the world. And he and I are still close to this day. A bhakti yogi, a tantra yogi, a kundalini yogi. I mean, I was doing the work because all I wanted since I was young is to attain full realization, spiritual realization. Travel to India. That trip that I went to on that 10-year anniversary was just one. I've been there 8 times, northern India, and I don't go to the tourist sites. I went to the Taj Mahal once because 5 times in a row, I was 35 kilometers away from it, and I didn't go. Because what do I care? When I found, I was like, you know what? I should go. I'm like right there. My guru's ashram is nearby it. So I was like, I should go. And I went, I was like, yeah, big giant gold house, whatever. And the next day I went to a cave and sat in a cave and had profound experiences. Dark, wet, dank, and that's where I was happiest, you know? If I have a message to anyone through all this, it is indeed, there's only one thing worse than suffering. Suffering for no reason. We're all going to suffer. Try to make some meaning out of it. Make some progress. And indeed, it sounds cliche. Live your material life. Maintain your body and your home and all those things. They're very important. But remember why you're doing it. To provide yourself with a sanctuary so that you can continue to grow and evolve spiritually. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings. We need to remember this as a guide and teacher now, which again, my counseling practice, I'd say 30% of my clients were there for self-improvement and behavioral adjustments and disorders. 30% were there for addiction issues because I was an innovator there. And the other 30% were involved with me for spiritual guidance and training. I teach people how to develop their consciousness spiritually. That's become more full-time now. I produce the book. I give free classes. I do readings. Again, I'm proficient in tarot, astrology, numerology, I Ching, Kabbalah's Tree of Life, proficient all, and I love them all. And it's not predictions. I don't do this with my readings. And as a matter of fact, if somebody watches this, I'm happy to give to your viewers 3 people that contact me and ask for them. I'm going to give away 3 readings. Okay? It's for having me as your guest. And so again, these readings are not predictions or to contact with past loved ones. What I offer is guidance to develop yourself spiritually. And as I was referred to as the cavalry counselor back then, I'm being now referred to, I found again behind my back, they were referring to me as the spiritual trainer. Like you go to the gym, you get a trainer that teaches you how to exercise and do things to get in shape. And I had a couple of my students that I found referring to me as their spiritual trainer. Like having a coach. So I offer this. That's kind of where I'm at and what I'm doing, you know. I mean, I'm trying to make the most of what had occurred. I'm not, I am always blown away by the miracles of my life. Not just this event, but again, my Kundalini event, what I did in my youth and my addiction years. Even then, I was very involved mystically and pursuing these things. So it's only the divine phenomena. Everything in the world becomes complacent. You don't want to see a movie you've seen 10 times or even 3 times. You're like, I've seen it. I know what happens. It's cool. It's a great movie, but I don't want to do it again. No, I already had something to eat. I'm good. I don't want any more. But I thought you liked it, but I'm done. I'm complete. One of the ways we recognize true spiritual things is it never becomes complacent. We always want more. And it always feels ever fresh and ever new, evergreen. When I watch speeches of my enlightened master guru, which is right there, Kripalu, it could be a speech I've seen a dozen times because he's a divine personality. He is an avatar. And even if I know the speech backwards and forwards, I'm kind of like, I love this. I mean, I just never stop satisfying. divine things, spiritual things, give you a satisfaction and a meaning that just never becomes complacent. This is one of the ways we can identify them.
So, one of the things that I really resonated with in your book is this idea of spiritual transformation, but not just in this lifetime, but across lifetimes. And I'm wondering if you can put that in perspective for me, but in a way that would help me guide my actions and what I need to do now to further my transformation across those lifetimes. So what am I bringing with me from previous ones, and how can I now affect future ones?
What a phenomenal question. I mean, I rarely get something that's it. Like, that is the question. What can I do to develop and grow and make progress in my soul's journey? The sage Patanjali begins the Yog Darshan by saying, I'm going to explain to you in the Yog Darshan Ashtanga Yoga, the 8-branch path of yoga to become realized. But before we begin, I want to tell you that most of you are never going to make it. And even those few who do, it will take you many, many lifetimes. Many, because it's impossibly hard. And it'll take you all of your life to even get close to good at it. And then you're going to be reborn. You're going to forget most of it and start over. So as you said, where you been? How can you build on these things? Karma is your experience and actions. Sanskars are your moods and temperaments and your interests and your passions. Those are both two forces that we need to capitalize on. When we can retain what we did in past lives and can get in touch with it, we build on these experiences, just what you do in this lifetime. You build on who you are and what you've done. Then he says, or you can just do bhakti. And then he moves right on. I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Or what do you mean it's never gonna do it? Or you can just do this. What about that? But that's not what Patanjali was here for. He was not here to share that information. He was here to teach Ashtanga. So I started looking into that. Sure enough, that's Bhakti Yoga, surrender and devotion. So what I try to teach as a guide and teacher, I'm not a guru, I'm not a master, I'm not enlightened, I'm not realized, I'm a stupid human. What I teach my students is how to develop their consciousness, how to do the right things the right way, meditation, surrender, mystical involvements. I'll give you an example. I had a student some time ago. She's absolutely wonderful. she's such, I just can't speak enough about her. She's just a brilliant person. She came to me because she came across one of my books on Kabbalah. She's like, wow, this is really good. This guy really knows his shit, you know? And that's rare for someone her age and a woman to be in this kind of mystical path. And so she contacted me and said, I want to know more. She got my other workbooks, the one on yoga, the one on tarot, the one on cosmic consciousness. And she hired me to start to train her and teach her and guide her. Now, she's a bhakti yogi. She has transcended all those mystical paths, learned those, and I guided her. I didn't say, hey, forget that, do this. I don't tell people what to do. I give them options so they can decide for themselves what they want to do. And then I encourage that and teach them how to develop that. So we need to go with, as you said, our karmas, our sanskars, our tendencies, and build on those. The truth is simple, you know, when you see it. And so when we involve ourselves, from your heart, the first thing is make a commitment. With all your passion, say to yourself, capital S, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, say to God, I want nothing but the truth, capital T, absolute, capital A, and nothing less. Bring me the truth. As Yeshua the Christ said, knock and ye shall, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened. He didn't say sit on your ass and do nothing and it'll happen. Seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened to you. He's saying with your heart, seek me, seek truth and God and love, and you'll find it. Because if you take this is from the Upanishads, as Lord Krishna says, if you take one step towards me, I'll come running 5 to you. So take this vow that I will not settle for YouTube, Twitter garbage. And there's some good stuff out there. My stuff's out there. I want only the authentic and original teachings, not some modified version of them, not somebody's take on that. I don't teach my spiritual knowledge and paths. I teach the ancient original ones, the eternal ones. And I reformat those in a way that people can access them. But I don't teach anything of mine. I teach eternal truths. So make that commitment first and then do the work. Pick up the books and don't just get the knowledge, the gyan. Do the karma, do the actions, put it to use. Again, I didn't just study Hermeticism and esoteric. I practiced it. I can do banishing rituals. I have an alchemy lab in my next room, and I still love it. Okay? So I put it to use. When people meet me, what they're drawn to is they're ready to go to the next level. They want to find the right knowledge, and then they want to apply it. And that's what I do as a spiritual trainer. I'm like, okay, here's the stuff to do, and here's how to do it right. Now I put pressure on them and say, now get it done. Here's your homework assignment. I give all my students homework assignments. So they're putting it to practice, and they can see and experience the benefits. Because the moment, again, you take one step towards me, and I'll come running 5 to you. The moment you take one step with your heart towards correct spiritual enlightenment and realization, you'll get a small taste of it, and you won't be able to say besides with anything less.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And I think that gives us something to work towards, but it also helps us understand that this needs to be a lifelong process, and it needs to be a lifelong pursuit. And I think in this day and age, we're very focused on, get this, almost like get rich in a week or overnight, or get that dream body by tomorrow. And we're looking for those shortcuts and how can I achieve this in half the time. But I think when we expand the perspective, and we expand that time horizon, then we can truly think of, what could be achieved in a lifetime, and then work back from that to what does it mean for me this year? What does it mean for me this month? And does it mean that I'm studying new things? Does it mean that I'm meditating if I wasn't before? So very, very beautiful.
Yeah, you're right. The work is involved, but again, I think that it's daunting. It gets overwhelming. Yes, indeed, it looks like, I don't do all this work. We do want shortcuts. That's human condition. Naturally, I do too. I'm all for it. But listen, I'm 58 years old, and I weigh the same as I've weighed for 15, 20 years. I haven't gained any weight. I'm not skinny and I haven't even had a mild cold in, 12, 13 years now. So I do maintain my body, my mind. I like a good cold beer on a Saturday, and I like a baseball game. I'm a Dodger fan, won the World Series, so all that stuff. But so you don't need to neglect your worldly life. It's that, again, have it in context. The priority needs to be spiritual. Priority. Live your material life. And indeed, there are shortcuts. Surrender, devotion, love. Not love of people. Forget that. I can't love people. Humanity, I used to say humanity, I love its people I can't stand. You've heard that? I think it's Oscar Wilde. And now I say people I like, okay, once I get to know them. Humanity, I can't stand it. Humanity's a mess. And so, again, it's about doing the work. I love, really enjoy, I'm entertained. When you start to associate, sang in Sanskrit, sangha, associate, with spiritual things that are genuine, they satisfy you. They give you this feeling you want more. So you're not just working it, you're having a good time. And again, this book that I produced, this cover was done by Visions. This is a meditation tool. This is a true yantra. By the way, that center star is tattooed on me. That happened before this, from the accident, because this is a meditation device. I made this book fun. And don't get me wrong, as you're reading it, it's dark, it's heavy. But I tell you this, no matter how far you are along in it, you tell me, is it I'm not there to entertain you. I'm there to give you something fulfilling, something that's meaningful. And I think and I know that that's what people are getting from the work that I'm producing in this book, is that it's also kind of intense and exciting. You don't mind keep reading because you want to know what happens next. There's a lot of cliffhangers because you can't wait to see it, and wherever you are, wait to see what happens next. It gets more and more intense, the entire thing. More. And so again, when you're associating, as you are with this book, with something that's genuine and from the heart, you want more. You're not just working. You feel like, you know what? If this is work, I do this all day. If you're doing a spiritual practice or study that does feel like work, it's probably not the right thing. Connect your heart. Ask for the guidance. Allow your heart to be open and let the right things come in. And when the right things come in, you'll get, again, the grace. Grace is the power that God uses to transmit to human souls to make them feel like you're on the right track. You're doing the right thing. Keep this up. This is your soul saying, you know what? I was craving something. I didn't know what it was. Now that you give me this, that's it. Give me more of that. And when you're not drawn to it, it's because your soul's saying, you know what? That's not the real thing. That's not what I want. Satisfy your soul, not your mind. Your soul is divine. Your mind is part of the Mayic material phenomena. Your soul is divine.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, put in the time and do the work.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Krishnanand, thank you so much for being here today. It was so beautiful speaking with you and learning more about your experience. I think we could have easily talked for 10, 20 hours more. I want to end with, for everybody that wants to reach out to you or find out more about your work, the book that we've both mentioned, where can they find you? Where can they find the book and the books? Because it's not the only one book that you've written.
Yeah, right now, go to life-mind.com. That's my home site. I've got two sites. One's within the portal, but to access that, go through life-mind.com, and there are links to all that stuff. So, indeed, all of my books, all 8 or 9 of them, I think there's 9 of them now, are on Amazon, all of the booksellers throughout the world. This book within the portal is in ebook, print, and audio, recorded by me with a lot of passion. It was very painful to record. As you can see, I bear my emotions. I don't hold back. I speak from my heart. And so, indeed, as a matter of fact, the ebook is $2.88. My God, I died for this thing. The paperback is like $22. The audiobook is $14.44. I encourage the audiobook. Again, it's at any of your audiobook retailers. It's on Spotify and all that kind of stuff too. I don't care where you get it. But again, life-mind.com is where you'll find information from me about readings, my classes, spiritual guidance and training, the services that I offer. And I work on a sliding scale. Some people pay me my full fee, which is $170 in US. And I have some that don't pay me almost anything. They come with their heart. And if they can't afford it, I'm not going to turn anybody away. If I can see them and help them, I'm going to. So, and I'm a soft touch. I don't want to advertise this, but I'm a soft touch. People appeal with me with the right requests and from their heart. I'm like, what am I going to do? Say no to them? I can't do that, because if I say no to them, then what's going to happen? They're going to be left to the world, which is a corrupt place. So yes, all the services are there at life-mind.com. You can contact me direct, Krishnanand at withintheportal.com. And again, hopefully you'll post the links in the email address on your post here. And so we'll provide all that. And here's the thing. Reach out. I'm a human being. I'm a spiritual being, but I'm having a human experience. And so reach out. I don't have a bunch of administrators blocking the way. People email me, they're like, people call me and they're like, I can't believe you're like answering the phone. I'm like, well, yeah, what am I? I'm not some celebrity. I'm some Hollywood guy. I'm just me. And so reach out. You got a question? I'm here to help. If you found me and you're drawn to what I'm saying, what I'm offering you, there's a reason for that. It's your soul reaching out. And so again, reach out. I'll talk to you.